Good to go? Abby, can you hear me okay?
Morning, I can hear you.
Okay, good morning, thank you. I will call today's meeting to order. Jen, will you do a roll call, please?
Tom McDonald,
Here?
Len Tucci, Jennifer Finley. Here. Jim Molitor,
Here.
Carol Langford, Terry Pitts, Bing Matt, Ellie Bundy, Martin Charlo, Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
James Steele Senior.
Thank you, Jen. Martin's in DC, so we're doing our rotation. Bing, would you please lead us in a prayer this morning? Sure.
I'm Lamb's Coolin Susan. As you thank your Creator for your blessings that you'll give us, we thank you for watching over our families, especially our children, our elders. We thank you, Father, for watching over those that have lost loved ones which are lately here and given the strength to deal with the losses that they've had. We thank you, Father, for watching over our men and women in the armed services and also our veterans. We thank you, Father, for this blessing this council with the decisions that they're going to have to make today. We all ask this in your name.
I'm Lem Spring. Okay, if you get to the minutes, the 21st Tuesday minutes are out for your review. Mr. Chair. Go ahead, Mike.
On page 6, we're talking about the gardens that are located around they're going to be located around the res. I want to make sure that the minutes reflect that I do not support opening the Indian Senior Center to support the garden at the location unless it's manned, unless somebody's in the center.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve the February 21 minutes with corrections.
Motion by Len to approve the February 21st Tribal Council minutes with corrections. Second by Jimmy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous? Okay, we have our agenda before you. We have one potential walk-in. We do have a walk-in. Okay. Any other items? Okay. Jennifer, one item for executive. Any other, Mike?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have a Progress Act is needing some letters written, so I want to talk about that.
Well, Mr. Chair, I have issues for open.
Thank you. Okay, Martin. Any other additions to the agenda? Bing?
Mr. Chair, I got one yesterday after a meeting that Jimmy and I and Carol attended out at 4th Street.
Any other items? Carol? Alrighty, we better get to it then. I would entertain a motion to adopt. Motion by Len to approve today's agenda with additions. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Martin? Assume so. Unanimous. All right, let's go ahead and we'll stay in open session and start with Mike. His due diligence has been there for a while on this topic. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The problem we have with the Progress Act committee right now is that as we were established timely, the committee was not engaged in a timely way. And so we're coming upon a deadline in April that the actual regulations are to be written by April so that they can go through the whole federal process to get approved. And it's clear that the committee will not finish that work by April. And so since September, we've known that we'd have a tight schedule, and the committee did start requesting an extension with Congress as early as in September. We started that process, but it needs to move along quicker now because nothing's really happening. And so it's been suggested that there be a little more noise made by the tribes about getting this extension, because if the regs, the committee doesn't complete the regs, it hurts the tribes more than it hurts anybody else. And so one of the legal teams drafted these letters, and they're to go to Brian Schatz, and I'm not sure all of the principal Congress people that they want them to go to, but there's 3 of them, and the basic letter is just saying, hey, we want an extension. It's basically what it is. And so I guess I'm asking that we as a council support putting these letters out to these 3 congressmen. So that'd be my ask.
Thank you, Mike. So yeah, it's very critical. There's a great opportunity here for us to be able to perform more self-governance type actions with federal programs and operations near and on the reservation. So this rulemaking update is pretty critical. So I certainly would support the extension. So the investment of time that's already been placed into it would come to fruition. So what we need is approval from the council to send a letter supporting a extension for the Program Act Committee to do their due diligence. Either way. I think so. Consensus work?
I think so.
Everybody agree? Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Bing. Go ahead, Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, they had a IDT meeting out at 4th Street. And myself, Carol, and Jimmy attended that meeting. And there was a subject brought up about some of the plans that they have in progress. Lisa Shorts reported on broadband expansion that she's working on. Got a 200-mile plus tribal land that's going to be worked on with this these power that they're gonna, the broadband that they're putting in. They got about 200 poles that's going to be installed. Also, they're going to have some underground wiring that they're going to be putting in. They're going to be putting a tower back up behind Steve Small Salmon's place, behind Job Corps up there. And the RFP was talked about. NEPA will be needed to be completed before the tower is placed. The highway right away was discussed because some of that is about the wetlands and tribal lands that's going to be possibly involved in this. And they also talked about the buffer zone, the logging up there and behind Kicking Horse and Ronan here. And they're going to take 50,000 board feet out of there, which figures out to be about 10 truckloads. And they also talked a lot about the blowdown that was up there, root rot and beetles that are causing this. And talk about mostly fir and pine being going to be taken out. And possibly down the road, they'll be looking at it again to see if there's going to be any more blowdown, from the beetles that are and the root rot that are causing these trees to blow down. But there was I think there was probably about close to 20 of us there, and then those who were online, probably over 20. And it was a heck of a good meeting that we had there, and they talked about the project with canals and everything, and then they talked about the Jocko K Canal, the Falls Creek diversion, Jocko K Canal, North Fork Access Bridge, Lower Jocko construction that's going on, North Fork, Jocko, Tabor Dam, and behind St. Mary, Kicking Horse Dam, and also Charlotte Planning area status, and that's to be determined when that's going to be done. Talk about fishing access on the Jocko River Road and campgrounds improvement with compact dollars, if they can use them. Talked about working, for the fires, working on the fires that we had, Elmo 2 fire, South Valley, Garso Jetty, Dancing Boy, Charity, Grog, Shalai area, White Earth, which is up in Big Draw Country and buffer zone. So these are all talked about yesterday on that meeting. And like I told Carol, it was good to go to a meeting like this to see and hear what intelligent people we have working for us, and those that was in there. And it's good to see that have the superintendent involved with this. Before you never hardly see a superintendent at these meetings, but he was there yesterday and he had a lot of input into this since he's been worked for Forest Service on Lolo. But it's good to hear all these people report on these issues, and it's not only forestry but our people that working on the dam and whatnot. The canals and irrigation. But it was really interesting to hear him sit there and listen to him talk and knowing it's what, with the knowledge that they had in all these areas. But it was a really good meeting, and I forgot all about it. Carol called me yesterday and told me, remind me, so I went up there and Jimmy called. I called Jimmy and Carol called, and Carol got online too. But it was a good meeting, and I'm really glad that I got to attend. Mike, he was on this other meeting. I called him yesterday morning, see if he was going. He was on the other meeting. But I told him I was going to go, but from now on, I'll be at these meetings because they're good to be at and to hear what these people are planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Bing. You're absolutely correct. There's a lot of stuff going on out there, and a lot of folks have valued input, and a lot of resource specialists that are very knowledgeable. It's good to attend those because you get a lot of insight on the projects and help make an informed decision. And that's exactly why I'm glad to have Shane here, because he's a signature on a lot of these environmental documents, and he needs to feel comfortable about it. Next, we'll go to Martin. Go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope you guys can hear me. I'm on my headset waiting to check out. The Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority is applying for a grant. I hope Jen could put that up. Basically, they're just it's just in support of the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority and kind of with their endeavors. We've done this before as far as supporting them. I was hoping that we could do a letter for the chairman to sign, basically in support of this grant application. There's a letter. I was kind of Frankensteining it together. So if there are any corrections that you guys see, please feel free to let me know if there are typos or it was kind of a form letter that I just changed. So thank you for your consideration. And I apologize for the late notice. I just got this yesterday and the deadline is Friday, so tomorrow. So apologize for the quick turnaround.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it looks like a basic support letter for continuing with the project planning. It does remain consistent with the tribal council's past actions. Is it the consensus of the council to support the authorization for this grant proposal? Oh, it's to support the Montana, the Rail Authority. It's just a grant to do planning, set up some meetings, do planning, continue with the project. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, there was a good show on TV last night talking about the high-speed rail throughout the United States and how they're connecting and stuff. So this is just a part of it, but I think it's definitely a good project to support.
Consensus of council to support the letter? Good. Jen? No, okay. Oh. I wasn't taking a vote, but I am taking a vote. Consensus. Okay, we'll do it, Martin. Thank you. Next, Carol.
Yes.
Thank you, Martin. Carol, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to send out my trip report. It's quite lengthy. A lot of different issues going on with the Ameren Cell Commission. And so I'll go ahead and send that out. But the challenges are mainly prices are definitely going up, insurance, and the deductibles is an option for not only housing authorities, but tribal governments and workman's comp and other things to be able to hopefully offset those. You know, if you don't have any losses, you don't have to pay a deductible. And I know $5,000 is a lot of money for individuals, but you know, it's just the price of business going up. And I know there's a lot of people yelling about it, but right now we're just trying to educate people as to what's going on. And once you look at the report, you'll hopefully understand the issues that we're discussing and going through. So anyway, and our AM Best rating also, I think I mentioned this last time, dropped, and we are working on that to try to bring that back up to a level, because I don't think the AM Best really understands exactly about what Ameren's all about. And it's critical. AM Best is critical for insurance, and we need to make sure that we keep that at a level that keeps the company looking strong. And if it gets a good rating, it keeps it strong. So anyway, if you have any questions after you take a look at it, I was able to use my reader at the board meeting and read the report that way, because it was quite lengthy. So, but it was a nice. I'm glad I found that reading option on my computer. But anyway, I sent it to Jen and she sent it out. So, okay, if you have questions, let me know.
Thank you, Carol. I haven't done the reader option, but I might. Depends on the voice, I guess. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. We will move into executive session. Sorry, Fred, I'll have to kick you out. And we can either do the walk-in or. Thank you, Fred. We will, good for you, that's what I should have done. We have Fred, I think, is up first. Fred, cousin. Yeah, Fred's dad was Jerry Knoll. And May, I see May about once a week with the same vice that I have at the casino. Okay, Fred, go ahead. Push the button on the mic.
All right. Sorry, this cold weather just makes me want to hibernate. So hopefully I'll make sense this morning. The library's here to ask for a submission of the Institute of Museum and Library Services Native American Library Services grant for $10,000. We provide services to SKC students, SKC student families, the local community of Pablo, and the reservation community. So we provide access to electronic resources, print resources, news, research databases, catalogs, resource sharing materials, and provide access to our main collection, which is pretty popular. So this grant allows us to purchase public library materials. Right now, I've got a request in the grant to purchase library materials, a library computer, and some professional development funds. This year, if we get the grant, I also might modify that. And I was interested in trying to use a little bit of it to purchase children's books and to just give them away. And we've worked with the Hope of Mountain Story Makers program for years, but that program's going away, and that had allowed us to give away materials like that. So I was gonna ask, if we get the grant, MLS, if we can use some of that funding for that purpose. And my idea around it would be to provide, hopefully like some like summer reading packets to some of the areas like Woodcock and Peachy, and try to work with maybe housing to see if they have events for families there that we could work with and give away books.
Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, in a minute I'll make a motion, but I would like to also say is that the food banks and also food sovereignty is a good opportunity to give out the books too.
Then
I know we do at the Breadbasket in Ronan, but they're usually the same books, so it'd be nice to have a variety of different things. What kids just love to get that kind of thing when
Yeah.
they come in to get the food and stuff, so
yeah,
I would, if that can be considered, that'd be great. But I'll
Yeah.
make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve the resolution once people have, unless people have questions.
Okay, motion by Carol to approve the resolution, the application to the Institute of Museum and Library Services, second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Show of hands. Martin, you there? All right, unanimous.
all right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah,
Tara, you're up next.
All right. Good morning, Tribal Council, Mr. Chairman. So we're on page 10. This is a business lease request. This is from the St. Ignatius High School Baseball Association. They are wanting to utilize the Elders Park baseball fields, just one of the baseball fields, to do Montana High School baseball this year. It is brand new. They just got it approved, the MHSA last year in January. So this year is going to be pretty small, quiet year because a lot of the high schools are going to, this is their very first year. Oh, thank you. So before they invest in a lot of money in creating a new field, things like that, they want to start out with seeing how this will kind of play out in the next maybe 5 years or so. So they are requesting to utilize the baseball field. They did request a 10-year business lease. It might not even be that long, but they're requesting that year with council approval. It'd be a 10-year business lease. Obviously, they require a zero rent as long as they make sure that they put on there that this is a donation from the CSKT tribes and, you know, respectfully fly the CSKT flag. They would have requirements from the MHSA, insurance policies, things like that. And then, but we are requesting a waiver of a bond.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we take action on this issue, I just wanted to mention to council that these are the types of issues that we would typically discuss in our land committee meeting. And it would give council an opportunity to ask the appropriate information that we need before we actually take action on any items. And so I think it's very imperative that we get back into the land committee format again, get the council back involved in that, so we can follow and track, because a lot of this stuff is we don't know what's going on, and you know, like the land purchase, the land acquisition. There were acquisitions that have been out there for some time that we took action on or that we showed interest in, and then a couple of years later, we're put in a situation to try to, and it's just not a good thing. So I just wanted to get council concurrence that we need to do the land committee again, once again, start that process.
Carol?
I think we need to take action to reinstitute it because I just don't see it happening otherwise. I mean, I missed the other meeting that they have, and I'm not sure what that is and what that entails, but maybe we don't need to take action. We just need to say it's going to happen. It needs to happen.
Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'd like to have a little more in-depth discussion. Using the field's fine, but I think there's a maintenance upkeep, and I'd like to know if there's some shared responsibility on that. But I'd like to hear what Glenn's saying, but I want to be in a position that we don't hold up these actions, that these land issues get moved forward quickly.
Okay. So do you want me to, talk with Mark or George? George? So should we set up a land committee meeting then for this month or next month? Okay, awesome.
That'd be great to do that. I don't know if we follow it up on Monday afternoon. Is a good day for council. That'd be a good time. I do have questions about this one in particular,
Yeah.
being a baseball guy.
Yep.
So is it currently leased out to the St. Ignatius?
It is
Cal
not,
Ripken?
but that will be coming in, and the youth will be utilizing the other field, at the Elders Park, which has been pretty much the same concept throughout the whole year. They have never really utilized the other one, the Babe Ruth has, which they are willing to work with Babe Ruth because it is essentially.
So who's Babe? So there's two?
So the High School Association is separate from Babe Ruth. This is
Well,
not
I
a
know
Babe
that.
Ruth.
So is
Yep.
there a Little League Cal Ripken
Yes.
and then a Babe Ruth, and is
Yep.
there a Legion team down there too?
No, they used to have one. When I talked with them, they're gonna strictly keep it down in Ronan area if they are gonna be able to utilize this, baseball field. Because they do have a Legion. A lot of times it just has not, so they've all been going down towards Polson to play at, Mariners and things like that, or even out of, Missoula. So if it's Arlie or Mission Boys, they've been going to one of those Legions, so.
Okay. So the field that you're talking about is not currently leased by anybody?
Right, correct.
Okay. And then how does that work with the concession stand?
So they would probably be separate. So association, for like the Babe Ruth, when they have their, which is usually Tuesdays and Thursdays, I think is their games, they'd have their own separate concession, which would consist money that goes towards them. Where the High School Association would have their own as well, which would go towards the High School Association. So they would separate that, whether it be outside or inside. They have it pretty much dialed down. Mr. Matt does, but yeah, they would separate that.
I'm sure Peter has it all
Oh, he
figured
does.
out.
He's on top of it right now.
Yeah, yeah, I think so they would assume full maintenance of that field too,
Yes.
the high school?
Yep.
Okay.
And they pretty much maintain it anyway throughout the year. We obviously go in and spray weeds. We kind of keep it upkeep, but for the most part, the Baseball Association, Peter, Matt, they're usually on top of their game over there and keeping it upkeep anyway. So they are working with MHSA to make sure that they have it all dialed into what baseball should be. So it would be up to them.
Tom, Martin has his hand up.
Oh, Martin, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I was just asking if that was for this year's baseball season.
What was that?
Would it be for this year's baseball season?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Next, is it this
Oh,
school
yeah.
year or next
Yep.
school year?
It would be for this school year. They got it approved through the board. They weren't sure if they were going to, but they did get it approved. So yep, it would start this year.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to go with option one.
I'd second that motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Land to approve option one for the business lease for the St. Ignatius High School baseball program, seconded by Martin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor, oh, Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Other schools that are involved with this, is this our league as well?
Not that I heard of. I haven't heard Arlie approved it. I know Ronan was in the process of trying to get that approved through the board. My last conversation with Dan is I don't think they were going to get it approved this year, but hopefully next year. So, yeah, so I say it's going to be really short season probably for them because this is so brand new. Not all the high schools are going with it until they can figure out a budget and money for their schools.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous?
Right, thank you. Okay, my next one is actually gonna be on page 12, I believe. Oh, gosh. 14. So this is a request from Charmel Gillen. This is to operate, in office business. She would bring in, a 10 by 25 mobile building. This is located on Tribal Tract, where am I at here? Sorry, let me get my papers all in I think 4580, or 4481. This is located in Folsom along Highway 93. This is, right by, the Oaks Korean Kitchen and the Bay, side. It'd be right to the left of it. It's just right next to kind of those food trucks. We've been putting small vendors on this spot, kind of selling vehicles, things like that, maybe blankets. The hard part with this location is during summertime, it's so congested, and with the high volume of people that we've encountered recently, it's now, NDOT is we're trying to figure out a plan of how to not make it so congested right there. Because during the summer, people are trying to go in and out, even with our two businesses who are very successful right now. So putting more, I guess, high volume vendors right there is becoming an issue. This would kind of alleviate a little of that pressure if we put at least a small business. She only requires one vehicle, maybe two in that spot. We'd put rent at $350 a month. She would be required to pay insurance and a bond. So we would be at least making a little bit of profit on there where we were making zero at this point. So we are requesting to recommend this with Charmel to go with option one. Our other vending spot, we are in the process of getting that updated and hopefully running this spring or summer for our other vendors. So that way there is more locations and better spots for them.
Go ahead, Carol.
I'm trying to figure out exactly what area you're talking about. I know where Oaks is, and I know where the drive-through down to the arena, and then the little red building.
Yep.
Where else is there?
So just be right that small little area right next to it. So in between that,
Do you have a map or something?
I can provide you a map, but so you know where
Is it the red building?
yep, so where that base of that red building is. So right in between there, so where the fence is and where the hot spot.
Oh.
So that's what.
Like this.
Yep, it's super small, and so she'd just be putting in a small building. She only requires, like I said, just to use one, maybe two vehicles, if that. Yeah, and it would be beneficial for her and I think for us too.
And the lessee next to has no issue with it?
Right, she's on board, because she actually wanted to even utilize that other spot for more parking anyway. So this would kind of benefit both of them for parking, for both sides, so.
Yeah, I'd still like a map.
I can provide a map.
Is there sewer and water to that lot?
Yes, in fact. Yes,
it does.
Yes, in fact, the best thing, our current lessees actually updated that, just this last year. With our water, all of it,
And
so,
who pays that?
they do. So the lessees will be paying the water, power, all that, even the infrastructure that they put in, our lessees paid for that.
I'll make a motion to go with option one.
Motion by Len to approve option one, business lease to Charmel Gillen for use of lot T 4481. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Let's see, Martin, where's Martin? Unanimous?
Okay, thank you. That was my final issue, so now.
Rachel? You have that paper though. Or can you pull it up on
Here.
there? Okay.
And then you can just use that.
Which one are we on?
You'll be on, 16.
Do you have it or do I have it? Okay.
I'm just gonna throw this out there to you guys. If you're thinking about bringing back, land committee, this might be something we want to talk later. This is a big topic. I don't know if we talk about this financial side out loud, but I did the total of what's in this packet.
Good, Carol.
I think this requires land committee
Thank you.
because we don't need to discuss other people's bids or whatever.
Yes, 100%.
So I think we take it back to the land committee and entertain it there.
That's probably the best thing.
Thank you.
It's gonna take a little longer than what we probably have.
Good, the land committee meeting.
That's something we're gonna schedule for
Is it,
Monday?
yeah, do you want to try to schedule that for Monday then? Or whatever works for you?
George? $1:00? Yep. One would work.
I think everybody heard me, but
Oh, we always hear those douche arms, I tell you.
by the way, yeah, we'll set it up for 1:00 Monday and we'll bring these issues in at that time. And if I may, real quick, we got 2 new staff people. Can I introduce a couple? Please
Well,
do.
sure.
They kind of took over Roberta Kay's position in her absence. They're working hard, studying up. There's a lot that Kay did. We all know that. Great.
Thank you. Welcome, welcome. I wish you the success in the job. Thank you.
They're fitting in really well. They deal.
Let me tell you, I say this all the time, there's no stupid questions. So ask lots of questions, because asking questions is a sign of intelligence. So please ask tons of questions.
Thanks, Rob.
So we'll skip through these then.
The next one, it's not up here, but it's the issue 18, I think. On page 18, it'll be for the hay. There we go. Yep, page 18, or however that is. And it's just trying to be able to put the hay up for sale down there on the Bison Springs Ranch and allow us to be able to put that money back into the operation.
Pretty simple. Any questions from council?
Mark has his hand up.
Who does? Oh, Mark. Yeah. Okay, Mark.
Yeah, I apologize that I'm not there. I'm under the weather again. So we're wanting to use that operation expenses for the power and irrigation building, anything we can make off of this to recoup it. This the amount of hay this year was a lot lower because we didn't get a good cut. We only got 2 cuts, not 3. Plus, we didn't have couple other fields that we got last year. So there's only the 33. What we're requesting is to get one individual to get all of it, have a drawing for it where the people call in, and then we'd pick the name in front of council and live on Facebook during a council meeting, through Zoom, and then we give them that, hey, since there's only 33 bales, roughly, 33 ton.
Sounds good, Mark. Thank you. Any questions from council? I would entertain a motion to advertise. Motion by Bing, second by Jimmy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Martin, got a question? Martin?
I apologize, is my hand up still?
Okay.
My bad. I'll take it down.
Yes, we will take, if that's the last land one, we'll take a quick 5-minute break for SNK Electronics before we move into shareholder meeting. Okay, first, who's all gonna go down, who's going to the dogs? So 4, 5? Well, we don't have Len or Terry. Probably 5. Already been to the dogs and back. Okay, we'll come back into session and we will go into the SNK Electronics shareholder meeting. First order of business would be to approve the minutes February 24th, 2022. Abby sent those out the other day. Motion by Mike to approve the SNK electronic shareholder meeting minutes from February 24th, 2022. Second by Ellie. All those in favor, show of hands. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 8-4, one abstention, one out of the room. Terry Pitts is out of the room, and Len is abstaining. Len, were you going to go to the dogs this afternoon? No. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Let's move into the report. Tom?
Well,
Larry?
I get to introduce everybody.
Okay, cool.
Then I'm done. You know, last year I did a very poor job. Delilah, who's down there at the end, is one of our board members. So is Donna Richards, Tom Farrell, myself, Larry Hall, then Tom Kinney, who's our GM, CEO, and not last or least but last is Sheila Mann. She brings cheer to our board, let me tell you. So we're here for our annual meeting. We had a kind of a nominal year in the way of business. Still trying to recover from all the COVID issues, supply chain, getting our customers back in on the you know the whole thing of even remote businesses has really kind of put a bind in our business, primarily because we can't get answers as fast as we used to when they were physically there at their businesses. But we're getting through that. I'll let Tom go through the business side of things, but Tom Farrell is going to take over the actual fiscal report. It's our audit, and I'll let him present.
Thanks, Larry. So in November, Whipley came in from Missoula and conducted our annual audit, look at our financial statements, and they also look at our internal control, and they've released our report. We had it back in end of November. I guess it's been a year, almost a year to the day since we've been in here last time. But as Larry said, our audit report was clean audit report. If you look at on your page, it would be page 22, the second paragraph, where Whipley says, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements referred to above, which are our cash flows, our net position, and our balance sheet, present fairly in all material respects the financial position of SMK Electronics as of September 30, 2022 and 21. The changes in financial position and its cash flows for the year ended in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So it's a clean audit opinion, and that's the good point. The not so good side is our actual financial statements this year. And as Larry said, there were a lot of different headwinds that we faced during the year, mostly brought about by the COVID, the shutdowns, people working from home, supply chain issues, price increases. Those haven't abated as yet, and a lot of that working from home, people not traveling, really hindered our marketing efforts. And Tom might comment further, but we used to have 3 or 4 visitors a month. We used to take several trips a month to visit our clients. The last couple of years, that all went by the board. We're getting back into it now, and we expect the results of 2023 to be much better. But those are some of the issues we faced. They'll be stated in the financial reports here. But let's roll on down to page 25. 25 is our balance sheet. And what I'd like to discuss there, primarily everything that's dynamic on this balance sheet occurs right in the very first section of current assets and kind of depicts what happened to us this year. And you can see our inventory went up. That inventory includes finished products and raw material and parts. That went up by 1.8 million. And we financed that by the number up above. You can see our cash. Our cash went down 1.5 million. So essentially all of that increase to inventory depleted our cash. And what it did is caused us to go into our line of credit. And as you can see, our line of credit down below went up by 600,000 as well. So, I mean, that's sort of the dynamics of what happened to us this year. And I'll talk a little bit about more when I get to the income statement. What really helped us was the CARES Act that Congress passed back in 2020 had a number of tax provisions in it, individual and corporate. One of them was the employee retention credit, which gave us allowed to apply to keep our employees on the payroll, apply for credit. And you can see that right on that third line, fourth line down under current assets, the employee retention credit receivable. We were able to book in 2022 $1.3 million asset and also bring in $1.3 million of revenue. And you'll see that later when I get down to the income statement and talk about it. But we can roll over there right now. It's on the next page. Statement of revenues, expenses. And you can see what happened to us. Our sales in 2022 were off about $4 million from the prior year. Cost of sales went down also accordingly, but our fixed operating, selling, and general administrative expenses were fixed. So we ended up with a net loss of $700,000 essentially. But that was offset, like I said, by the $1.3 million revenue we received from the employee retention credit. So net wise, we did reflect a profit of $500,000. Last year we paid a dividend of $600,000, and our cash is still fairly strong. We will be able to declare a dividend this year, and I'll let Larry talk about the actual amount when we finish here. But so even though we operationally we suffered because of lack of sales, because of all those forces we discussed, supply chain, increase in prices, not having a good ability to market our products hurt us operationally. But the employee retention credit of $1.3 million allowed us to reflect an income of $500,000 this year. So the next page, which be year 27, is our cash flow.
Second, Tom, go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to say, you know, it may not look as good as we'd like it to, but keeping those people employed, critically important, I think, for our economy and for the people who are working there. So hats off to you guys for keeping track of them and making sure that they're good.
Tom might talk about it, but our workforce did decrease by about 10 people, roughly 10 people between this time and same time last year. However, all of those were attrition due to retirements, et cetera, and people moving on in different jobs. But so we never had to go through an actual forced layoff, and we're able to keep everybody employed. I don't know if Tom wants to add anything, but.
No, we did have the most retirements we've ever had. We had 6 retirements last year, which is the most. So we continue to have an aging workforce, which is seemingly everywhere. But we are trying to continue to hire younger people as we go. A little hard. Manufacturing, as you know, is probably not the most glamorous job for people. And we're all in person. We can't manufacture remotely, and remote work seems to be a big thing for young people. But again, we didn't have any layoffs at all. We tried to keep every employee that we could, and we will be adding employees again this year. That number should go up to where it was a year ago. So that's what we're working on right now.
Tom, if I may ask, what's your entry level wage?
We just had a wage increase. Our entry level wage for level 1 is $12 an hour and level 2 is $14 an hour. Right now, we don't have any employees. The lowest level employee we have is $13.50, and he's a new employee. And then after that, it's $14.75. So to give you an idea, our average wage rate is $18.48 an hour, where 2 years ago it was $15.61. So we have done, the board approved updates to the wage scale just a couple weeks ago. So it's by far the highest wage that we've ever paid. That's the good point. We need to retain our people and pay them a living wage. The bad point is it makes our products more expensive.
And what's the benefit package that they would get if they're?
Oh, we have full benefit package. We have profit sharing and 401ks with matching and good health benefits. So if you remember way back in 99, 2000, we had offices in 7 states across. So we kept our benefit package. It was very competitive then. It's very competitive now. So we have done a good job with the benefit package. But when new employees come, that's kind of secondary to the base wage that they're looking at, particularly entry level people. They don't see the base wage, but we have a very good benefit package.
So page 27 is our statement of cash flows. And you can see at the top, our cash flows from operating activities was a negative 1.4. And that was offset by the use of cash down below where it's got net change in cash that came from our internal savings, if you will, or what we had invested in the bank. We had to use that to offset it. And where did it go? If you look down at the bottom, you'll see it went into inventory, almost $1.8 million. So it's not all a negative because that inventory of raw materials and products is going to turn into the sales, and it already has started to. So, and our backlog this year, backlog of orders and contracts is maybe the highest it's ever been. We just went through this morning a meeting was sitting at about $15 million of backlog sales, so contracts. So that will turn. We're expecting it to turn this year. Any questions on the financials? So I'll roll over to page. Yeah, here's the work on page 29. It discusses the employee retention credit that I talked about. That CARES Act created this employee retention credit. It's a refundable credit. And Whipley, our auditor, allowed us to book it in 2022. We should be seeing that cash shortly. Although dealing with the federal government is always a strange thing, but the 1.3 million was reflected in our income statement this year. So let's see. Okay, I'll move down to our lines of credit. Note number 6 on page 33. We have 2 lines of credit, one with Eagle Bank for $2 million and one with Glacier Bank for $1 million. At the end of the year, 2022, we had $551,000 outstanding on that line of credit, where the year before we had 0. And on the line of credit with Glacier Bank, we had $39,000 outstanding. And, the year before we had 0. So Tom has just renegotiated the line of credit with Eagle Bank just this month. So they've extended it the same rate at 3.25%. So is that for a year? Yeah, okay. On the next page, Tom talked about our compensation package for employees. Note 8 is one of the aspects. We do have a profit sharing plan. This year it was not as healthy as in prior years, but we still declared a profit sharing amount of roughly $58,000, which we have, I think at the end of the year, we had about 59 employees, so roughly $1,000 each, which is, for someone making $12 an hour, is a considerable amount. The year before it was 2,000, so it's all driven off of our net profit. So, and usually runs 10 to 15% of our net profit. The next page was, I'm just hitting some of the highlights here, but note 12 where it talked about risk management. And here the auditor stated some of the aspects that we've already talked about this morning. And that second paragraph in the risk management talks about just what I said. The company has suffered a significant impact from the current economy, which included the following: customer contracts being pushed to future dates, an increase in cost of components and decrease in availability of parts, causing an increase of product costs and longer lead times, lack of in-person marketing at the customer facilities and SKE facility. All of these impacted our financial statements. Not entirely abated this year, but I think a lot of these things are starting to go away, and I think we'll see a much better financial position at this time next year. The last page I'd like to talk about is page 36. This is where the auditor talks about our internal controls. So they look at our financial statements, and then they look at our internal controls. And in the third paragraph under auditor's responsibility, they sort of cover themselves, but they say they didn't identify any deficiencies. But then they go on to say, but that doesn't mean there aren't any, but we didn't find them, so they kind of cover themselves both ways. But I'm confident, and I think the board is confident, that there are no internal control deficiencies at SK Electronics.
You sure they're not politicians?
Well, they have to cover themselves. So if there are some, and then you come back and say, well, you didn't point these out, we're going to sue you. They're going to, yeah, but we said here that there might have been some, we just didn't see them. So yeah, they're covering themselves. But that concludes the audit report, the highlights of the audit report, and the financial statements. If we'd field any questions you might have, if not, Larry can discuss the dividend to the shareholder.
Motion by Carol to accept the auditor report, second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Unanimous. I had one question on the line of credit. Why is there 2 banks, not just one?
Just for the amount. That's what, at the time, what Andrew could do. So we still have some accounts, our payroll account and stuff is at Glacier. So we wanted to split those lines. We haven't used the Glacier one much, but they extended it to 3 years for the same term at the time. So I'm not going to turn it down.
But we did have an occasion, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. We had both. We used both of them right up to the max. So.
Yeah, we maxed them both out at the 3 million, and then Andrew had to get us another one through with your guys' help. But yeah, we like to have some availability of funds.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I can interject at this point that financially, we had a tough year, but we we were able to declare a dividend. And I don't know if you want it right now or at the end of this presentation. I see a nodding over there by Len. Now, so we can offer, our dividend is 250K for this year.
That's half of it.
Oh, this check is worth 250. The other 250 is later on this year. So we'll split it in two. So it's actually 500K, which, you know, is not bad for what we did.
Given the considerations you have before you, that is really good. Yeah.
Good job, you guys.
Thank you.
Well, photo.
And then at that point, I said, well, we're never going to come back for money because if we can't make it, well, it's no use running SK Electronics. So we're able to do that. And that was back in 93, if I remember right. So been positive since.
Thank you. You've always had a really good workforce. Really appreciate that. Dedicated employees. And what's good is you always have a good product. And that's the meticulous effort for the staff there. So Tom, particularly want to thank you for that.
This year, we did win 2 awards from Raytheon, one from BAE and one for Lockheed for basically 100% quality, 100% delivery on those, being a worthwhile supplier for those. So, and then with the DoD, we still haven't missed a day in the last 2 years. So it's been very intriguing. And right now with the new stuff in Ukraine, things are picking up. So things looking right now are very busy for us for the next 6 months. And as Tom said, one of the largest backlogs of bookwork we've ever had at over 15 million. So we're only projecting to do about 14 million total. A lot of the work still with the lead time and parts is out in 2024. And we're actually booking out into 2025 right now. We still have 100+ week lead times on some of our parts. And that's why you saw the inventory rise. We're getting about 90% of everything we can, and then we're waiting for the remainder of the parts to come in.
Have you, as far as Governor Gianforte and his initiatives and work, have you seen any benefit from that?
The state ones, we have not seen any real direct benefit, but the Helena meeting was very good and informative and got to meet lots of nice people. So that was kind of fun. And a lot of people were very intrigued by what we do compared to a lot of the other tribal entities when we were down there, and had a lot of conversations with people and got business cards and things from a lot of the legislators. So they were impressed with the facility and the product line we have. So it was very interesting.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from council? Oh, Carol?
I was gonna say, I told you they didn't have a clue about us, and I think the more we can do that kind of thing is helpful to blow our horn and say, yeah, this is what we do at home, and I think they'd be impressed and shocked.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you all. Good job. We will move out of the SNK electronic shareholder meeting into general session. Janet, you're up.
Good morning. We're on page 38 in your packet. Basically, we're we presented the feasibility study to you a couple of weeks ago, and now we're here to present the business plan for manufacturing affordable housing. We're looking at 1 and 2 bedroom units. We're still trying to figure out what would be the best option to partner with a company out of Butte or possibly Platinum Sheds out of Pablo. But the business plan that's being presented today focuses on the partnership with Foothold. And Michael Schuman will do the presentation. So with that, Michael. You're muted.
You're muted.
Thank you. Very nice to be with you today. And I am going to share my screen and share some slides on all of this. So just give me a second here.
No problem, Michael. Good to see you again.
Nice to see all of you. So we had a great privilege in being able to work with Janet and her colleagues, and I'll mention more about who we worked with over the last 3-ish months, trying to do a business plan around small modular housing. And the details are in the business plan, and I'm guessing that most of you probably just skimmed that, and I'm going to try to just present the highlights of that over the next, 12, 13 minutes or so, and leave time for questions and analysis. And I will say at the outset that this is an idea. It is an idea that we've been able to develop a lot of information around. And it's an idea that still needs, I think, additional information to be developed. And I try to complete my presentation with a set of what I think are the best next steps for putting this together. So just to say a little bit about who did this work, I come to you today. Last time I came to you in the capacity as a consultant with the Northwest Area Foundation. Today I come as a consultant working with a group called Council Fire, which is a consultancy based in Annapolis, but it's mostly a virtual consultancy with people working all around the world on all kinds of sustainability projects. And I thought it was really that this project was a good one to take advantage of the various kinds of expertise we have in Council Fire. So the research mandate that Janet and her team gave us was really twofold. One was to create a feasibility study that took advantage of work that she has been doing for several years, trying to unearth information about what that opportunity is. And the feasibility study, which she's already presented to you, was our looking at 14 different providers of tiny house products and trying to figure out, okay, what's the market opportunity for this? Who could be the best partner if we just want to purchase these products and then install them locally? And if we want to make a partnership with one of these 14, who would be the best partner for creating a manufacturing facility? And as I'll get into the details of all of this, the market opportunity we saw as being enormous just on the reservation, but there is some opportunity outside the reservation too, and some reasons to go outside the reservation. For the purchasing partner, there's a lot of contenders out there, but we went through an analysis that convinced us that a group called Rangich was offering the best product. But honestly, the market is changing almost by the week. So I think it's worth keeping an open mind with all of this. And in terms of the factory partner, the only one of the 14 that at during the last 3 months indicated that they wanted to help us create a factory on the Flathead Reservation was a company called Foothold, which, as Janet says, is based in Butte. So based on those findings, we proceeded to do a business plan, and the business plan assumes that a factory is built on the reservation, and we did some financial modeling and tried to do an estimate of what kind of capital might be required to get this thing going. To just give a little bit of a recap for the rationale for this project, we see a bunch of advantages for modular housing, and they're worth just mentioning. One is that they can be mass produced, which means they can be produced quickly and inexpensively, and can be produced in a small facility. That the cost of installation is relatively low, fast, low risk, not so vulnerable to weather events. It's also a relatively low cost to maintain these small modular housing units. It's a low cost to ship them, and they have unusually high energy efficiency characteristics. So the first thing we did in the course of putting together this work is to have a steering committee. So the steering committee is Janet, who is on the upper left, Velda Shelby, who is also involved in the Economic Development Department, Jody Perez in Housing, and Josh Mackey from S&K Design Build. And it's worth saying that I think all of these people contributed enormously, but I think all of these people are still evaluating whether or not this is something that they want to commit more energy to. So I say all of this just to say that don't hold them to actually implementing this project yet, but they are curious. And I think that there is a discussion that this is meant to stimulate. So a word about the marketplace. The marketplace on the reservation for affordable housing is clearly enormous. There was a study that was commissioned from a group called Big Water, which suggested that as many as 6,000 units were needed by members of the CSK reservation. Now, we think that study had a lot of methodological problems. And so in our view, the number is probably closer to 1,000 or maybe even a few hundred. But whatever that number is, it's worth saying that the output of a small factory could be entirely consumed by just that market. Now, we happen to think that's not a good business decision, and I'll explain more about that in a second. But beyond the local market, there is just a huge need in affordable housing. The 3 counties surrounding the reservation, before COVID, the 5 years before COVID, there was a net influx of people without housing of 550 households per year. And that, of course, has accelerated since COVID. And those trends can be seen throughout the Mountain West. And honestly, you can see these trends in the half dozen or so reservations in Montana that have similar housing needs. So there really is quite a large market for this kind of housing. As I mentioned earlier, we did 2 kinds of analysis. One just asking, okay, short term, if you want to buy a product, who is giving you the best offer? And this company, Rangich Brothers, was the one that was on top of our list. But if you're interested in all the other in the list of 14. We have details in the appendix of our study. And then Foothold was the one company to indicate that they wanted to partner with us in the actual creation of a factory. Now, it's possible that others may decide to step forward and say, we would like to partner with you too. And it's worthwhile to keep an open mind about all of this. Part of the analysis is asking, okay, so what is affordable housing? And it's worth just throwing a couple of numbers at you. So in recent years, your housing department has built a few houses and has kept careful track of the costs. And the costs have been $179 per square foot. Now, Foothold's product that we start with as a base is more expensive than that. It's $205 per square foot. And it's also worth saying that the Foothold product includes production and installation, but it does not include siting. So we gathered some numbers around what does it cost to prepare a site for all of this. And the one number that the one pilot that the housing department did around this found that in order to build a foundation and a road and a pad for building the tiny house, this could be $40,000, which works out to $27 per square foot. But for reasons that I'll lay out in a second, we believe these numbers can be brought down substantially. We believe that the number for the cost of building a small modular home can be brought down to about $146 and maybe even lower. And we believe that the siting cost can be brought down to $10 per square foot. And with those kinds of cost reductions, you will get savings over what the stick build alternative would be. So how do we reduce costs? And here's just a bunch of the ideas that we talked about. First of all, the Foothold product has a 40% profit margin, which is great for Foothold, but obviously not that relevant for what you're trying to achieve on the Flathead Reservation. There's also economies of scale. And one of the things that we do in the report is we say, okay, one possible economy of scale is to have 2 shifts in a factory. It's not a radical idea, and just doing that moves you a great distance toward profitability. We can put in lower cost appliances than Foothold was considering. We can adjust the finishings of the final product. We can increase the efficiency of the factory through expansion over time. We can perhaps locate and use cheaper local lumber, and we can use more workforce trainees who will be paid at a lower rate, but in turn get a bunch of skills on the job. And in terms of the siting, there was really no economy of scale in that 40,000 siting operation. And if you're building, if you're creating a site with 10 or 20 foundations that you're laying simultaneously, there are huge economies of scale that we believe can bring down the unit cost associated with that. So as you read through the business plan, we add a bunch of features about the factory. And this is, some of this is the back and forth conversation we had with Josh at S&K Design Build. But here are the assumptions that we have in the business plan: that Foothold will be our partner, which means we will incorporate their ideas about the design and the production rate and the use of equipment. The size would be about 10,000 square feet. The annual output of this factory would be, with one shift, it could be as high as 27 units per year. With two shifts, it could be 54 units per year. And the number of full-time equivalent jobs, and these are jobs partially with management, partially with on-the-floor factory workers, and partially with installation, the total jobs for the first 3 years of the operation would be 21. For years 4 and 5, as we move into double shifting, it would go up to 35. The cost of building this factory, and this is really a preliminary evaluation from Josh, is that it would be $1.5 million to build, and that the equipment cost would be about $450,000. Now, couple of bottom lines about all of this. We estimate that the startup capital to get this thing up and running would be about $1 million. But even with that, this operation could be profitable in 3 or 4 years. We don't think it would be extraordinarily profitable, but it would be net profitable. And it's worth saying that over the 5-year period, 174 units could be produced. And again, the full-time equivalent jobs is 35. I think at this particular stage of the project, some of the precise numbers, like the date it becomes profitable, the amount that it requires upfront, a lot of these things really turn on assumptions. And one of the assumptions that we make, to just give you an idea of the kinds of assumptions that go in this, is that half of what is produced by the factory actually gets sold outside the reservation. And the reason is that you can fetch a much higher price. And with that higher price, you can sort of cross-subsidize selling the other half to people on the reservation at a much lower price. That's a thought, but these are things that could be played with. I think in terms of, if you want to achieve profitability, I've kind of in my mind divided up the universe into what is required to do so and what would be helpful to do so. So what would be required is, number one, that we do undertake the cost reduction modifications of either the foothold product, or maybe we use another product as our baseline, that again, we sell half the units at a higher price to the general public as a way of increasing revenue coming into the operation, that we do the double shift to have a greater economy of scale, that the factory be put on reservation land so that that can be a minimal cost. And I think really important is that there is strong leadership that steps forward. Now, we have a lot of interest on the reservation in doing this, but what we don't have yet, and we need to locate, is one company or one entrepreneur or one set of people who says, we are going to make this happen. And that's, I think, one of the priorities. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. What I think would be helpful for moving to profitability quickly on this would be, number one, if you could find a grant, and there are grants coming out of the Department of Commerce and Bureau of Indian Affairs and USDA that could possibly underwrite the factory, that would be a huge step forward. Number two, I think really using lower cost trainees and thinking about how to design a job training program around this will simultaneously be good for building trade skills and keeping down the costs of operation. Number three is to keep thinking about ways of enlarging the scale, because I think there are economies of scale here that will greatly increase the profitability down the road. And finally, and I've said this at several points, is being open to competitors. I mean, we took a snapshot at the prices and the interests and the products of 14 producers out there, but that snapshot is going to change. Our best guess about the needed team for putting this together is to have a technical partner like Foothold to help design the factory, to have a construction partner like SNK Design Build in order to build the factory, to have someone who is in charge of the manufacturing facility, that is yet to be known, to bring in an installation partner, that could be R&R Construction, and to bring in a partner around workforce training, and that could be the community college. So finally, next steps. If I had to make a short list of, I think, what's needed in order to make this happen, I would say, number one, start doing more installation and just purchase units from the cheapest place available. We recommend Rangich, but there are others out there, and develop a whole installation capacity even before building the factory. Number two, develop the local team to make sure we have a leadership core in carrying out this project. Number three, we need a much more detailed blueprint of what this factory would look like from SNK Design Build or from some other architect engineer. And finally, we need to help raise that startup capital. And hopefully, again, a grant opportunity could be seized, and that would get us off to a great start with all of this. So I will give you this PowerPoint when we're done, and this is our information if you want to be in touch with us. And let me stop there and just open it up for questions. And Janet, feel free to help answer any questions as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation and the information. I guess the question I have is, are there any other tribes that are doing this?
There are certainly tribes that are implementing, building, installing small modular homes, but we did not find a good example of one that has actually created a factory yet. And it's worth saying that this whole industry, even though the concept of small modular homes goes back generations, the most recent iteration of this industry is quite recent.
Ho-Chunk does have a factory that they purchased in Minnesota. But again, trying to purchase homes from that factory, the transportation costs are really prohibitive for us. And they were not interested in partnering when I contacted them because they were having trouble finding workers for their own needs.
One question I forgot to ask you, Janet and Michael, before is on the small homes, or if you looked at, or is that part of the Foothold or any of the other companies that did the steel container homes?
So there are, when you look at the products that are available from the 14 companies, there's a really wide range. And I don't recall any of them using steel containers as the base per se. but there are certainly suppliers out there. We also did not look at some of the 3D printing kinds of companies that are out there, and that may be worth looking at some point as well. But what I think has to be remembered is that you've got some very specific requirements given what the weather is in your part of the world, and so the requirements for insulation and good energy design does raise questions about the applicability of the container approach.
Good, Carol?
You know, this is definitely a solution for our homeless problem, but it's also a solution, or could be a solution to families who want to keep their elderly parents or elders around their home. This gives a separate place for an elder to live in, but also have family right there next door to watch, help keep track of them and watch them and take care of them. So that's the second solution I think I see right here. As long as they're made to, I already know they'll be made to a good standard, but something that's not just a box. I like the little porches and things like that add to the little home, but I live in a smaller home myself, just a 2-bedroom, and I tell you, as you get older, that it seems to be not so confusing walking around in my house. So anyway, I like the idea of having our own manufacturing facility. We do have a tribal installation company that is on our Indian preference list too. Thank you.
Yes. So it is worth saying that a lot of communities that have embraced these small modular homes have been applying them to exactly the use that you suggested, which is to have parents in the backyard or in some exterior dwelling unit. And I think it is terrific. And remember also that, these units come in a variety of sizes. So they can be as small as 300 feet or as large as 1,000 feet. And the 1,000 feet units are more 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms.
Any other questions? Jennifer?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I know that these kinds of homes are trendy now. There's shows on TV about them and stuff like that. I guess my question is, what is the resale value of these homes? If somebody, let's say they bought one for their in-laws and they didn't need it anymore and they want to resell it, do these kinds of homes appreciate or depreciate?
I guess honestly, again, given the recency of the trend, the jury is still out. But what I think augurs well for their at least retaining their value, if not appreciating, is that they're very well designed. And that is kind of their comparative advantage over mobile homes. That mobile homes, the traditional mobile homes, are not so well designed. Many of them are not well insulated. Many of them don't do as well with snow. And these units, having been designed specifically for your needs in your place, I think will retain their value better. And they could, in theory, be moved to another place, another site over time. I mean, some are more, depends how you position them on the foundation. Some are more movable than others. But yes, and they also are, I think, aesthetically pleasing. And this is, trying to think about it not as a one-off, but, how can you create a village approach to a bunch of tiny houses I think that would sort of, if you can create good functionality, good social, a good kind of social arrangement among those tiny houses, that will increase the value of all of them.
Jennifer,
Thank you. Ideally it would do that and not create a ghetto of just bunching a bunch of people together who have a bunch of social issues. Hopefully it wouldn't do that. But do you know of any places that have created a successful community consisting of tiny homes?
So this is where all those TV shows come in. There's certainly, I can't give you chapter and verse, like which is the best of them. But there are a bunch of communities around the country that are piloting this and giving it a test. And you know, as the way you phrased your question is exactly right, because if you concentrate too many people in one place, and you know, there's not a lot of class or other kinds of diversity in there, you can magnify sometimes the social challenges. But I think what we're talking about here, again, and this is what, you know, we came at this with a factory, not in producing thousands of units, but in producing tens of units a year. So it really gives you the opportunity to create a village of 50 or 100 units rather than thousands. And I feel like that is a scale that is manageable. And certainly, yeah, with a little bit of research, I am confident we could find lots of good examples of 50 to 100 unit kinds of communities around the country.
I guess I got a question for Jody, that she's here. When we talk about HUD and building standards or square foot limitations, in order to qualify for your project funding, what would be the minimal small sized home, or what would be the standards for construction?
So if I'm going to be applying for a HUD 184 and reselling those, there's no requirements. The tribe could, even economic development could apply for a HUD 184 and resell. But if I was to do these for a low rent unit, if I was to purchase it and put it on SCAHA property or leased property for our low rent program, there are a set standard for the cost per square foot, and I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's per bedroom size. And all of the examples he used are well under that max affordability that we have to sustain. The construction cost per square foot, it's pretty high. And so they would qualify. We are, just yesterday, the Housing Authority received 2 sets of bids. It's a phase 1 and a phase 2 for 1 bedrooms here at Maggie Ashley for vacant lots. And I was surprised on the cost because it was higher than I had even budgeted for in the grant. And we were going up high. So I actually got the bid results today, and they are within our threshold. So like, this is higher than I want to pay, but it is still affordable. But it was $240 per square foot was the lowest bid. And that is for 780 square foot home, 1 bedroom. And so Mike had mentioned that we have 179 per square foot home for our 2 bedrooms. Those are under construction right now. So those bids were received like last fall. So it's gone from $179 per square foot to $240. And we are going to negotiate to see if we can get the price lower, so it's within our grant budget. Otherwise, we'll have to build less or find some other funding to subsidize the difference. But all of the examples he used are within our building feasibility.
Just one question, since you brought that up on your recent bids. Do you think that's associated with labor shortages or is it supply?
I would guess that it's supply and demand. You know, so the lowest bid was 240, but we received 3 bids for phase 1. The next lowest was $323 per square foot, then $328 per square foot. And then we only received 2 bids on phase 2, and that one was the 240 per square foot and then 328 per square foot. And so it would be cheaper to buy manufactured than pay the stick-built price. And if the quality is the same, then especially if we were producing it, I would be buying them from our company versus stick-built.
Yeah, some of my friends that are builders, they said, well, you can't afford me because they're in such demand.
Yeah,
They're asking whatever prices they want.
exactly. They have us over a barrel. You want to build, you have to
Not the
pay the price.
materials, it's just that there's. a
Materials has still, they are not at the height of they were during COVID, but they are still higher, and it is still hard to get certain things. It's weird that the items that we can't get, sometimes it's windows. We haven't been able to get cabinets except for one contractor for like 2 years, you know, and then you just wait for 6 months until he gets to you. It's weird. Sometimes we can't get doors, interior doors. It just depends, but there's shortages that are very hard to predict, and you just have to wait in line.
Thank you, Jody. Yeah, I brought up the square container item as, you know, that they're out there. We've used them for office spaces here, Michael. So we do have them. We do use them. They're real durable, that kind of thing. But aesthetically, of course, they're at the rear end of that kind of a consideration. But what I like about the wood pre-manufacturing type thing is you can be creative. You could add a room on. You could, you know, there could be different components that you can put together and put together a larger structure. But having that opportunity and creativity is pretty rewarding. I was able to go to the plant here at the old Plum Creek facility here in Pablo, and they're manufacturing the sheds there. It was a Mennonite company, and I basically ordered my own shed. But I went in there and watched them build and how they're putting it together in that old lumberyard facility. And so, yeah, the opportunity is great. I could see where Foothold would have a good business perspective. So, in this business model, are we a nonprofit or are we a for-profit? And if we're a nonprofit, is there opportunity there with cities and towns on different projects as far as communities, or would a minority preference business provide that same incentive?
Yeah, I think that's a choice to be made, and all of we since we don't have yet a company or a entrepreneur who says, I want to do this and this is the structure of the company, it could go in either direction. I think my own advice to you would be to probably do it for profit, just to make sure that this thing was, you know, better on all the business elements at the outset. But even if it was for profit, it could create a nonprofit subsidiary that was then capable of going out and raising grants for particular projects or doing the kinds of partnerships you're talking about.
Any other questions? Jennifer.
Yeah, I just did a quick Google search. Do these kinds of homes appreciate or depreciate? It says they depreciate. That's just like the top answer. So I mean, I'd have to read more about it from, you know, where that source came from and all of that. But my other question is to Jody, what is your demand? Is your highest demand for 1-bedrooms, or is most of your demand for bigger units?
So I have the waiting list
information, which is for rentals and not for home purchases. So it's a whole different target population because the people who are coming to me for rentals can't afford a mortgage. So the demand for rentals is 1 and 2 bedrooms, but the demand for purchasing, I would assume, would be more of like a tribal credit question. And we were talking to Pete White last week, and he had said that this was just what he was guessing on the spot was his demand for pre-approvals. When people come in for mortgages, they are pre-qualified for usually between 180,000 and 220, and they are 3 and 4 bedroom is what they're looking for. So those are the statistics that I would look for if I was going to be building. But we don't know the demand for this type of house. I think we will know a lot more when Janet auctions off the 2 that they did at SKC, because then we will know what people are valuing for it and what the demand is. So we don't know yet. And my rentals is it's not the people who are going to be buying. And we haven't had a very active flathead finance program for home ownership since COVID hit. And so we're not actively doing our home buyer education classes. And so I'm unaware of what the demand is for our normal, we're working on getting those programs running again. And then I would know more. But right now I would think Pete's statistics would be the most accurate.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important to know that some people are looking for starter homes. They might not be able to afford the 3 or 4 bedroom. They want to start out with a 1 or 2 bedroom. They have a small family, maybe 1 child. And what Foothold is seeing is that they're selling mostly 1 and 2 bedroom units, not the tiny home units. They're selling the smaller affordable home units. You could call them tiny homes because they're smaller, but they're not the typical tiny home that you think of that's on wheels. It's on a permanent foundation, and it's just smaller than people are used to purchasing, but it's more affordable. And that's pretty much the issue that we're looking at. And by having them be more energy efficient, people save on their monthly utility bills. And that's significant. As you've seen over the winter, a lot of people are having trouble paying those utility bills. We would, be minimizing those costs for those individuals. Thank you.
So the building codes for this kind of a endeavor, what would they be?
Jody, I'll defer to you on that one.
Did you say Jody or Janet? So Jan has been the mastermind behind gathering.
Yeah, I guess I could have said either. Something
Yeah.
with a J. Yeah.
Yes. But we would follow the whatever the industrial standards are. Anybody would, because if you don't follow those building codes, then it can't be occupancy. What's that? Certification. You can't get a certificate of occupancy, and if you can't do that, then you can't put a title on it. No one can live there. So in order for it to be mortgaged, you have to have those certificates.
So what Foothold is doing is they're actually having like Bozeman's building inspector come and inspect those units before they're sealed up. So they actually have a pretty stringent building inspection process.
So when you reference, of course, the obvious advantage, if you're not heating a 3,000 square foot home and you're only heating a 600 square foot home, that becomes automatically more affordable. But are you talking about like super good sense building standards or that kind of consideration?
Yeah, that pretty close to that. High R values in the ceilings. I think they're a little bit higher than super good sense actually in the ceilings, but the floors are insulated, the walls are insulated, and then they have good heating units. They have electric heat and like the splits for air conditioning in their main living area. And we toured a two-bedroom unit, and I really was impressed with, they had the double pane insulated windows. They had good siding with the 30-year warranty on the siding. They used all high quality products. So they shipped some of those products in from back east, but it's like their windows. But yes, similar to Super Good Sense, if not better.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you. And again, if you have follow-up questions, my and Nicole's email are in the business plan document and also in the PowerPoint.
Thank you, Michael. Anything else, Janet?
No, well, I guess, would we have permission to share the business plan if we get requests from individuals or from other tribes?
Consensus of council for what they've have published to date? Sure.
Yes.
Why don't we figure out whether we're gonna do it or not, right? Or are we thinking about it as
You can definitely wait. If you don't want to share it yet, you can wait.
well, I mean, am I missing something? My understanding by the presentation is that we would be considering doing the manufacturing and building tiny homes, or am I just wrong there? I mean, I know we'd have to find money, we'd have to do all of those things, but are we seriously looking at it, or or does that come from up
I think
here?
this is, when you think about our major initiatives, this is one of them. This falls under one of those, two of them. Yeah, housing and jobs. So, would I think that there's anything here that is corporate secretive? No. In fact, is a lot of this stuff, it's hard to even find, people that are interested in doing the plant, because so if this is going to happen, it's going to be something that we're going to end up, trying to finance and do as a tribal corporation or an element of the tribal government. So I think if somebody wants to steal this information and go out there and do that, that benefits us actually. But that would be the way I would look at it. But certainly it's proprietary. We could keep it in-house for a while longer, or keep it forever till we actually build something.
Or when do we take action to say, yes, we're gonna do this and move forward? Is there more of a discussion we're gonna have, or?
I would think there would be quite a bit more. There's a lot of more information to go into this. Yeah, it's a stepwise program that Janet and Velda brought forward to us. Go ahead, Velda.
Thank you for your time today. You're right, Carol. We will need to make a decision eventually, but we can bring some more information forward if need be. That was our consultant's information and background on what is available for us and what some of those initial costs are. But we still haven't met with Josh while he was on our steering committee. We need him to help us go through and actually look at the factory building cost designs, and he needs to let us know if something like this would make sense as part of his firm, his subsidiary company. We also need to look at a site. We need to meet with property management. We had scoped out a few sites and those are in the plan, but we don't have anything definitely. We also need to work with the design team, and if Josh wants to help lead that, of course, we're going to have to negotiate contracts there. But we also have an opportunity to work with MSU's, their Montana Manufacturing Center there. And they're the people who got the factory and the processing plant, everything set up for foothold, and they're willing to assist us. And again, finance, we have to look for those grants. We have to look at new market credits and all different types of financing that's available. And then ultimately, if this is something you want to proceed with, we will have to seek management to make it happen. So we know there's a lot more questions here, and I think it's going to begin with vetting what we have right now. And if technologies and other people are willing to help us with the design build and all, and then we can come back and we can have more accurate costs for you as well.
Thank you, Velda. Yeah, to me, another key component is the vocational or training that the college may provide, and they would be a partner. So if we were
a
partner with technologies and, that would be part of it. It would be
yes, and Accelerate Montana met with us a few weeks ago. So we're familiar with those programs too, on how to build partnerships and develop workforce and apprenticeships. So all of this will culminate, but this is as far as we've gotten thus far. And we just needed to finish up our business plans with our consultants. So perhaps if you can approve that, give us authorization to proceed as a team, we can continue to meet. And then Josh, if you'd be available, that's something we need to work out, is our arrangement to work with you.
Absolutely. We're here standing by to help out in whatever capacity that ends up being. I think obviously up front, it makes sense for us to be involved, advising, and then if there's and Mr. Chairman, you asked a question earlier about profit versus nonprofit. That was one that the steering committee discussed, and I do think that a for-profit model would involve potentially S&K, and so we didn't want to push too hard in any direction. We wanted to be sensitive to, yes, this is something that S&K, with the acquisition when we acquired ITL and have SK Design Build, has capability to do, but we also wanted to give local tribal member-owned businesses every opportunity. So we're, and I talked with Chad Cottet about this numerous times, and he's very well in the loop, that this is an important initiative for the tribe, and so therefore it's an important initiative for us. So to answer your question, Velda, yep, I'm happy to continue in, I guess, I don't know if we're still having the steering committee, a formal, or if it moves to a different group, but whatever it ends up being, I'll be happy to assist however I can be, as well as be able to tap deeper into the organization to get the true experts that need to be brought at the table. So we do have some more refined cost on the factory. There's just a ton of questions still that we would need answers to before we can really zero in on certain numbers, as well as the landscape is changing a little bit in this market, right? With federal, with the interest rates going up and some of these mortgage questions and stuff. So.
Thank you, Josh. Go ahead, Jody.
And where my mind goes is, why wouldn't we start with creating a construction development department or program or something at the tribe, and start doing construction to build up our own workforce, so that eventually we could get to a manufacturing center. But we aren't quite there yet. There's so many answers that need to be discovered, and but we need homes now, and we need developers now. And so that could be one thing, is like a fan or phased in plan to get to where we want to go. Because right now we don't have, unless you guys have a $2 million sitting around that we could spend, and a construction crew sitting around that we could use, there's so many missing pieces, but we have the needs right now. So if you guys It would be really cool if we started a new program or department that was for development and that's all they did.
We could assign Larry Hall and my wife to it and we'll just get right on it. Right, Larry? Back in the old day. It's PATCOR. It is absolutely PATCOR. Yes. Before you were born. Those graduates are aging out of the workforce now. They're retiring. Well, yeah, I don't know about that, but that's what I always think. But I think about PATCOR and how tremendously beneficial that program has been to us over the last 30 years.
And so maybe if there were those documents, that could be where we start and work towards a manufacturing center.
Yeah.
Long-term and short-term.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would, go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the people that have put the work and effort into this, and I'd like them to continue. I'm very supportive of looking further into this, and I wouldn't get in any hurry about putting things out yet. I think we got a lot of work to do ourselves, but anyway, thank you for the efforts and all the stuff you put together. Great ideas, and it's going to take a lot of figuring and thinking, but good job.
I would entertain a motion to approve the feasibility plan for the modular house factory and strategies that were discussed, and to have our economic development department continue on with planning proceeding. Motion by Terry. Second by Jimmy. You moved your head, Jimmy. I saw it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Show of hands. Unanimous. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Velda. Josh,
Thank you,
back to
everybody.
Jody.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Anything else? Okay, well, we will adjourn today, and there's at least 5 of us going to the dogs. Gonna be there at 2. Okay. 2 o'clock. All right. See you down in Missoula. Those are going.